All right, welcome everyone to Cartographer Office Hours. This is the space designed mainly to discuss proposals, to discuss RFCs. If you are not familiar with the project RFC process, you're welcome to check it out. It's at the top of the meeting notes. There is the link for the RFC process itself. I will put it also here in the chat. Oh, yeah, great. Uh, Copy link. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, here it is. Cool. And also we open the floor for users and contributors to ask questions, propose additional ideas. All right. Let me share my screen real quick. Let me see. Do we have any new faces? Well, not exactly. Cool. All right. Welcome, everyone. Well, for today's session, is there anyone who would like to take notes?
I'll give it a go, bro.
Thank you, Raj. Sorry. Oh, thank you, buddy. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
could you
feel free
post
to.
could you just post the hack day, hack
Oh,
MD?
yeah, sure.
Sorry.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, and yeah, feel free to add yourself to the attendance list, including your affiliation. Okay, so we will start with the RFCs that team consider priority to discuss, because mainly they are tied to a specific release or an upcoming release, so they need to be discussed, firsthand. So we will start with the add match param selector RFC. Yeah, great, confirm. There you go. Thank you, GitHub. All right. Add match param selector. Is there any update or any comment you would like to address regarding this RFC?
So yeah, I moved this from denied to pending a few weeks ago in a meeting that was as sparsely attended as this one, and there have been no comments since. And so I was like, well, let's mention again that this is in the loop. Unfortunately, there are no members of the TOC to discuss it now. As to the actual contents of it, the idea is we have options to, for example, switch to say, if you see this field in the workload, do X. And if you, stamp out template X. If you see different values, stamp out with template Y. But we can't do that against params. At the time that this was proposed, and you can see this was written by Josh. I think I was actually the first maintainer that said, I think that this is not necessary because the persona of the app operator will always know whether they are setting a param or not. And since they know if they're setting a param, then they can just check to see whether the workload has set a param. And so they don't need to handle the logic of params being overridden. And then when I was working in TAP, I realized that our view of personas was too limited, that we have this view of the app operator and the app operator, and we have.
Oh dear.
We lost Wishing.
Yes, we did.
Seems like. Yeah, he's right. This was moved from denied to in review. Uh, if someone from you are not familiar with the stages, they are described in the RFC process, and the team created this nice dashboard in the project to actually visualize the current status of the proposals. So this one was moved from the night to in review, so we could cover additional details with the technical oversight committee. Let's see which one. Okay. Well, meanwhile, we will have to move to the next one, or I don't know if anyone else would like to comment something around this RFC. No.
I'm sorry, what was that? I got distracted.
Yeah, and from is there any comment? You know, we could wait for Wishima, but we will need to move to the next RFC.
Yeah,
So
no,
there
I
is
think
some.
I think at this point that this is clearly there, but not the highest priority. I was hoping to ask Washima what the priority was for this, if there was some requirement from anyone. I'm not in a rush to move it forward personally because I haven't heard what the use case is that means that we must implement. Versus whether it's a valid or good idea is, I like the idea personally, but in no rush to see that it gets done. So I'll just put that Wishima fell offline.
Yeah.
And Rash would like to know.
That's right. Okay, well, the next one will be the artifact tracing with correlation rules. Also proposed by Washima.
Yes. So is this the first time he's introduced this? Is this the first time it's turning up in the...
Yeah, maybe because it was created a couple of weeks ago, and probably this is the first time we officially introduced this RFC.
Okay, so I'm just going to have to do my best to... Oh, no, here he comes.
Sorry about that. My internet just disappeared.
No problem.
The big open question we had while your internet was disappeared was what's the motivation to introduce the match params back? Is there a use case that needs to be solved at this point from a customer or user? Or can it sit there and wait until someone's got time to actually get in there and review it? Is it okay to sit in them pending for now?
I mean, as with most changes to Cartographer, you are able to do arbitrary things with the YTT, but the use case is simplify our templates, move logic out of simplified templates instead of having like huge functions up at the top that are used to determine what sort of template am I supposed to be, and then have functions that then stamp out that template to instead allow authors of platforms like TAP to use those options on params to just declaratively switch and say like, oh, this param is set, so clearly we're stamping out this sort of object.
I didn't see that mentioned anywhere in the RFC. Is it additional comments at this point, or because I think that'd be really worth having, or did I just miss something? That happens.
It's not so much in the that it's in the RFC. It's that when I was working on TAP work in the last iteration, I kept running up against this problem where I was like, I would really like to have, like, I don't know what params are going to be set here, and I'd really like to be able to use options against them. And we had sort of left this with we don't think that there's a use case here if one appears. So
I just
at the end of the iteration, I was like, here's the use case.
Right. Could you put that in that? It would be awesome because
in the comments.
Yeah. Oh, I think just straight into the RFC, because that is the reason to bring it back, because there is a discussion going on in the background about how, although we might not get rid of YTT, we want to find a way to, I won't go off on a tangent for very long, but really quickly, the assessing what kind of inputs a template takes would be quite easy if all we ever had to do was read templates and not YTT. And we're thinking that if we can just say, well, you get better awareness of the type requirements of a template simply by using only templates and not YTT, we'd like to promote that. We'd like that for better experiences, warnings, that sort of stuff. So that goes in the right direction to that. So if it's mentioned that that's what it helps with, I think we can make sure that we get an approval from TOC for it for that.
Yeah.
Right. Great. Thank you. Okay, now for the next one, the artifact tracing with correlation rules, which we believe this is the first office hours meeting where we introduce this proposal.
That's not the case. I definitely, I think it was 2 weeks ago, spent most of office hours talking about the 3 artifact tracing proposals. So this is not a this is not an introduction. This is a please comment, and if you aren't commenting, please approve.
Yeah, you're right.
There was one request. There was one request that I had when I talked with Stephen and Scott that I've already addressed. But otherwise, there haven't been any. I have not heard any comments that suggested. Oh yeah, for the artifact tracing with correlation rules, there was. I was suggesting that we should do some caching for security, and Stephen and Scott were pointing out lots of use cases where, where a cartographer could still be man in the middle when dealing with other controllers. And so, I was like, okay, let's put this off since it doesn't wholly solve that problem. But otherwise, that change has been made. Otherwise, all these proposals are the same as when they were brought up 2 weeks ago.
Then I will make it my job to take this to the team and make sure that they do approvals. So it sounds like someone else is begging. So it's not just you, right?
I appreciate it, yeah.
There we go. All righty. I have to take this to the, what do we call core maintainers? There we go. Cool. Nice.
Thank you. Okay, now the one for generation output correlation.
We're talking about all 3 just then.
Yeah, all of those artifact tracing ones are approaches to solve the same problem for resources that are slightly different.
Yeah. Okay.
So next up is questions, I think.
Yeah, next up, well, unless there is something in the outstanding RFPs board that you would like to discuss, specifically the one in the in review stage.
Not at this point.
No.
Anyone got any RFCs they want to push or talk about?
Just trying to bring up the project board to remind myself what's in review right now.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Next up, we have the questions or discussion topics, starting with Rashid introducing new release process guidance.
Yeah, so this is a simple thing. Currently it's just a Carto doc. I'll move it into contributing or releases markdown, but I'd like to just get some comment on it. Just that we're creating, we're just working on main at the moment. We haven't got a branching philosophy for backporting patches, and I think that's a good thing to have. We're starting to see a need for it. So this is just a suggestion on how to do it. I think it's pretty consistent. And I don't know if anyone has any big concerns about it or some great suggestions about what would be better. Does anyone want me to talk it through, or shall I just leave it on the table? I just wanted to introduce it really, but if anyone wants me to talk it through, I will.
Yeah, also, I think we could turn this into a GitHub discussion, so folks could contribute there, if you don't mind.
I don't mind. I don't mind at all, but I suspect we will be implementing it ASAP because we do need it.
Oh,
But at the same time, we can continually discuss improvements to our branching strategy. So yeah, I could pull that over into a GitHub discussion. Yeah, if I can find where to put notes about that.
alrighty. Thank you. Is there any comment about this, the release process ideas? No.
Yeah, this seems like a pretty straightforward. This would just be, we would have essentially a develop branch and a use this one branch, and we would
Oh, the develop
make sure
branch
that
would be
I
main.
mean main would be yeah. And yeah, it talks about backporting, but we're not even talking about maintaining multiple releases that we have to, like, multiple miners or anything. So that seems conservative to start off with. Like doesn't
Right.
require us not huge requirements.
Yeah, I think though, if we need to backport something to a miner, right, we would take the miner and we just create a release branch for it off of its most recent miner release, right? Sorry, off of its most recent miner release or whatever patch release we did, and then going forward from there, create our tags off of that so that we maintain compatibility. I suspect there is one that should land. It just depends on how much noise we hear, because I know that certain steps actually run in parallel when they should not in 030, I think, and that might be something we care about. So that's why I introduced this, as I was like, maybe we're about to need to create a patch for the first time. So that's why it's there.
Excuse me, does Cartographer have a historic policy like N-2 or something like that, for just haven't gotten that far?
No, at the moment, the only policy we have is for our vendor support, at VMware. But no, we don't have a policy, and we probably won't end up with one until we find a way to 1.0. We'll see. Yeah. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Rush. Okay, next up, this is an idea that was proposed by Mauricio Salatino back then in February, to work on a proof of concept using Cartographer as the, let's say, the glue to integrate several tools, Jenkins, Tecton, Knative, etc., using CD events. CD events is a recent Continuous Delivery Foundation project, member project, and their goal is to basically standardize the protocol, or to propose a standardized protocol to handle events between different systems in the context of a continuous integration and continuous delivery again systems. So they have this interest since we included the word events in our documentation, and we've been sharing with this community the ideas of the project. There's this idea to work on the proof of concept. I know the Cartographer TOC and technical leadership has already discussed this. Now we have the eyes of Fatih the Germancy, the user. He is now the Continuous Delivery Foundation General Manager, and happens to be also the software supply chain lead there at the CD Foundation. So it's a great opportunity. I will keep not say pushing, working with the technical oversight committee and tech leadership, and anyone from you who like to collaborate to make this happen. Because I think it's a really interesting use case, and anything we can do with this community is pretty beneficial for the project.
So I agree. Like, I agree in terms of, with the sentiment of wanting to be helpful in the CD Foundation, but the specific ask surprises me quite a, or not that the ask surprises me, but that we're considering doing the ask surprises me. If someone told me I want a choreographer that works with CD events, I would say, hey, there's Kepton. You should use Kepton, because Kepton is pushing for the CD events proposal, and Kepton is edge triggered on events from Kubernetes objects. And you wouldn't use Cartographer because we have a different philosophy specifically around eventing. You often hear Rash and Stephen talking about Cartographer being level triggered, and what that translates to at a really tangible level is, instead of listening for events published by the controllers of the objects, we look at the state that's written to the objects by those controllers. And so I saw someone write an idea like, oh, well, we could have a third object that would
That was me.
listen to, okay, fair enough. Yeah, that would listen to CD events and publish that information. To which my first thought was like, if you want to do that, you should use Kepton. Like, Kepton's there.
I think the idea here is interop, right? The idea is to have interop with tools that have decided to follow the CD events approach.
I mean, so if CD events were widely adopted, for example, with KPAC, like I would expect that KPAC would publish CD events, because there are build specific ideas in CD events that they're doing. But I still wouldn't expect that we would interact with KPAC via their events. I would expect that we'd be interacting with them via their status.
Agreed.
So are you hypothesizing that there will be useful tools that enter into the ecosystem that publish necessary information only in CD events and never in their status? Because I would agree, we can't work with those currently.
Yes, I would suggest that that's possible. I would also suggest that if there is tooling that is good at monitoring CD events, that if we have an obvious way to emit them, all right, and create an emitter object as well, because that's essentially runnable. I'm pretty sure we could do a hack on runnable to emit them, because it's an it's a level to
transition.
edge trigger transition. Yes, thank you. That would make that possible as well. And I think for more details, we need to find out what James is thinking, but he's definitely already considered this and is looking into it. So, I mean, we should see what he's thinking. And maybe we can also ask the CD Foundation for more details as to what they think this might look like. All right. So what they'd like to see satisfied. That makes sense in that space. I do know that that some people consider like CD and CI quite different. I'm not sure whether CD also includes a lot of CI behavior. And so there's an integration too there, which is when you're done with CI, for example, I think Jenkins X is looking at emitting these events too, that when you're done with CI, we still get into the cartographer approach to delivery, which then leaves the events behind, but should still be triggerable by them. So I think there's that as well. Hypothesizing though, that's all I can say, because I don't know what people really expect or think. So it'd be really nice, David, if we could dive in on the use cases that people expect here.
Yeah. So, and some of the things that I heard you say, like, oh, maybe Runnable should emit CD events, and even maybe workloads and paired with supply chains should emit them. That makes total sense to me. In almost a conversation that we didn't have in office hours, but a conversation that we had with Adam about attesting to work that's being done. Like, yeah, it would be useful to have like the coordinator emitting events, and then in each individual piece is also responsible for emitting events. But the thing that makes me wary in just in this issue is to demonstrate how tools can coordinate existing tools by using CD events. And so for if the ask is like, hey, can you show how Cartographer could like how would Cartographer interact with CD events? How could they use them more? I'm like, oh yeah, we should totally do that. But if the ask is like, maybe you should demonstrate how Cartographer could become kept in, like, but why?
I think it's a very reasonable point, and I'd like to make sure that that's raised, right? Because, yeah, but we already know that we're not going to change. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, there's already tools for that, right? Like you say. So it's not about being stubborn. It's about being like, what's the point? Yeah.
We'll check with Mauricio and also James what's the current status of the requirements or the expectations from this POC.
Yeah.
And
I might
again,
have a use case about this. So as I wrote also in the Slack channel a few weeks ago, I was looking into creating some kind of GUI for Cartographer. And an idea that I got was actually to implement a controller that would intercept all the message passing that Cartographer takes care of doing, updating the status, and to intercept that and emitting events, so that then I can build a GUI just by listening to events that would contain information about source code updated or image published or stuff like that. So it would be, I don't know, it seems related to this, but it would be an extension, like not replacing how Cartographer works, but providing additional information for tools to more easily get a status about all the different resources, and perhaps build some monitoring or some GUI on top of that.
So there is a plan to introduce events, none of them particularly suited to monitoring today, although there is room for that. They're not CD events, and I don't know if CDF events is based on Kubernetes native events, but we would probably use Kubernetes native events for that. And there is a plan to introduce events, and then I think there should be a discussion about the kind of monitoring or telemetry that people care about there, because there are already GUIs that will monitor that kind of information for you. Like a lot of the app monitoring tools already do something like that, which will at least tell you like how many times something has happened in an hour and that sort of thing. It's not necessarily useful per workload or anything like that. You'd make something much more specific, but I really think it would be Kate's native events that we'd be trying to support in that space. If that fits your needs, I'd rather we looked at that than CD events.
So, those events would be based on the cloud event specification. So there would be something like Knative eventing, or a system consuming these events object, and then there can be consumers listening to Knative eventing, receiving those events. So it's not the Kubernetes events.
Oh, okay. Well, I think you should raise an issue with some really strong links to those Knative events, if they're different from Kubernetes events, so that we can learn more about what you're after and bring it up for discussion maybe next week, so that people have had a chance to look at what your ask is, because I'd love to hear it. It'd be great.
And in terms of that interop, I would, my read, unless I misread the CD events proposal, my understanding is that they would be a subset of cloud events. That all CD events would be valid cloud events. They are, but they're more strict. You could have a cloud event that's not a CD event, but you would never have a CD event that wasn't a cloud event. And so that's where I would expect the interop to be. That like anybody who is expecting to consume a valid cloud event, if we switch to the CD events template, we would still be supporting them.
Yeah, that's correct.
Really would love to see an issue raised by that, so that we can sort of like dive into some links and maybe even if you present some of the things that you're looking for, like an example of what you're looking for and what the use case is, that'd be great. And the team can dive in.
Yeah, I wasn't involved with that issue, but I can provide some feedback on those events, because independently I was looking into something similar.
That's what I'm saying. Could you provide it in your own issue for your own reasons, rather than trying to tie it into the CD events?
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll do that.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Thomas. All right. And now, Thomas, back in June 16, Thomas presented at the Go to Arrows event, talk that included Cartographer. He made the slides public. We'll put the link in the chat so we can add it to the notes, please. And he was kind enough to bring here the feedback he got from attendees. So yeah, thank you, Thomas, not only for setting up a talk including Cartographer, but for taking the time to reach to us and
it's a pleasure
here.
Yeah, the presentation was very well received. There were also attendees not very familiar with Kubernetes that really were excited about the developer experience with Cartographer and the separation of concerns. So the fact that moving to Kubernetes for them with Cartographer wouldn't mean to learn all of the tools and having that cognitive load that for developers, it's a problem nowadays. I found really useful to present this from imperative versus reactive systems point of view. So with the standard CI/CD pipelines being an imperative system, and then GitOps that kind of split the last part of a traditional CI/CD pipeline, making it reactive and based on declarative language, and then extending that kind of process to the whole pipeline, making it a reactive system. So resilient and responsive and message-driven. And then at that point, introducing Cartographer as the solution in order to provide this message-driven part of the system, like choreographing the different resources. Like the two main points I think that were the most well received and were the separation of concerns, so less troubles on developers, and the fact that it's quite flexible, so you can choose different technologies and you're not tied to a specific platform, but it's quite flexible. You can provide some paved path to production, but you can customize it as you wish. So it's quite flexible from that point of view. So that was good. So there was, it was very well received. On the improvement side, I got comments about the lack of a GUI, and in particular, like a developer-friendly way of knowing what is happening in this path to production, and in particular, if something fails, how to address that. Because with the workload abstraction, the developer only provides a few information that developers are aware of. But if something fails, then you need to know how it works under the hood. And that was pointed to me as an issue also in a production scenario, that the developers pushes some code, it has fails, then how to get that visibility or to know right away that something failed so that the developer can fix that before moving on to the next task, like in the spirit of continuous integration. Yeah, I think that was the gist of it. So positive feedback, excitement about separation of concerns and this reactive system that is quite flexible, and comments on at least lack of a GUI or something more developer friendly to get information about what is happening in the supply chain.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas.
Yep. You're welcome.
Yeah, this
feel
is
that
great.
That gives us some validation of both the increased for things like status on workloads, status for each of our individual resources, things like the events that Rash was just talking about that we're intending to implement, as well as artifact tracing to say, where are your changes in your supply chain? So tell people we hear them.
I believe there is discussion around making what is a Tanzu private product at the moment public, which is the what's the framework we're using? Backstage, a Backstage plugin for visibility. I don't know where that's going, but I'm hopeful that that might come to the fore and be the thing that people can use to get some quick graphic user interface. Not sure, can't make any promises, but there's discussion about that kind of thing. It would probably appear in the Tanzu Community Edition, I guess. We'll see. It's understandable for sure.
Yeah, I think it would also help when explaining Cartographer for people new to the project. I think just visualizing in a simple way what is going on. So both like the production side, but also like for sharing the project and advocating for adopting it.
Yeah, I honestly.
Yeah, that's.
Sorry.
I was just going to say that that's interesting. If it is if that is a piece that's becoming a prereq to users adopting the open source tool, that's good for us to hear. Pass it along.
I mean, we also do have that that live editor, which is my concern for people who are trying to understand how to build their first supply chains. I would certainly like to see more effort go into generating that. If you're not aware of it, there's the live editor. Big link.
Yeah, actually, I used it and showed it during the presentation. I think it helps to showcase how to build a supply chain. So I think it's great for application operators like the app operators persona. But for the developer that is not interested in how is that implemented, of course, it's a different kind of visibility. Yeah.
Thank you, Thomas. Yeah, I think the summary is we are at it. Most of the RFCs discussed here are exactly geared towards that direction, providing more observability, I would say. So yeah, no, thank you for your feedback.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Cool. Okay, is there anything else you'd like to share here or discuss? No. Okay, well, thanks all for your time. Hope to see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.